Hey guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin'. Today, we've got another gear review for you. Everything from rods and reels to baits and tackle. Let's go. I'm pumped to be doing another gear review for you guys because we have some amazing stuff here. After the Classic this year, so many new things came to market. We've already done a post-Classic gear review, but there were so many new items, you couldn't possibly put it all into one. Plus, we needed more time with a bunch of that stuff. There's still more yet that we need even more time with. Baits are simple. You get to know the baits, you go out, you fish with them, you find what you like, what you don't like. Some get cold, right? Some don't make the cut, some make the cut. But rods, reels, baits, things like that, you got to beat those things up. Terminal tackle, you need to know what bends out, what doesn't. Is it really stronger? Is what they're telling you the truth? Do the reels hold up over time? Do they stay smooth or do they break down? All those things go in as we cull down to create a list of new products that are worth your time to look at as we continue through spring towards summer. We've got an awesome list here for you today. Let's start it off with rods and reels, and then we'll wrap it up with baits and terminal and all that stuff. The very first one, this is a budget option. We said at the beginning of this year that we were going to focus a lot more attention on budget gear, and we have stuck to that. Now, we love high-end gear too, and we're about to talk about high-end gear, but we have stayed very budget-minded and taken a look at all of the new budget-friendly gear that has been coming to market. First one up is the Daiwa Regal spinning reel. I have been very impressed for the price. You're talking, I want to say, don't quote me, I'm never good at prices, but I want to say like $69, right around there. Super impressed by this reel. It is lighter than the previous generation. Air drive rotor, air drive bail. We could quote specs, but that's not the stuff that really matters. What really matters is how it's going to feel and whether or not it's going to stand up. And here's what I can tell you about this reel. It is crazy light for the price. I mean, crazy light in its category. Complete standout from other reels at this price point. It is ridiculously smooth. It has that Daiwa feel. Just unbelievably smooth, very easy to turn. This does not feel like a budget reel. This feels like a higher end, serious quality reel. And then the last thing I noticed is there was insane line capacity. When I spooled this reel up, I'm winding line on there. I was using 8-pound fluoro, and I'm winding. And you kind of have in your brain when it should be about full. And I look down and I'm halfway there. The line capacities are huge on this thing. Overall, I mean, just an amazing reel for the price. If a guy wants to save a little bit of money and still get a really quality reel that so far has held up extremely well, super smooth, it's performing like a much more expensive reel, you cannot go wrong with that Daiwa Regal spinning reel. I'm using the 2500 size. Because the capacities are so high, you could easily use a 2000 size as well. That would be no issue. Either one of those are great. That's where I personally would go. All right, wow, we have got some wind coming all of a sudden. Next up, another Daiwa actually. They launched all sorts of things at and around the Classic. Daiwa has finally jumped in to the US bait finesse market, the BFS market. Finesse fishing with casting rods and reels. Now, Daiwa globally is an absolute leader in bait finesse. Daiwa and Shimano just run that market globally. But Daiwa was pretty late, frankly, to the US market, which is amazing because years ago, serious BFS guys were importing, they were bringing in JDM Daiwa reels, but The last few years, Daiwa was not present in the market, so it's awesome to see them here now. They've brought 2 reels in. I'm sure we'll cover the less expensive one later. I went with the higher end reel because of my own personal interest. I wanted to know. So the first one, I actually got them both, but I put all my time into the higher end one first. I've already got a bunch of days on this reel. This is the PX BF TW70, okay? This little guy is a true bait finesse reel, a true JDM style bait finesse reel. Again, we could run down specs, right? It's got an air spool in it. It's got micro bearings in it, which I don't know if you're serious into BFS or bait finesse, you know some of these things, but they use micro little bearings because there's just less mass there. They start up easier. It's all about lightening up your spool. It's about using different types of cast controls to create a reel that can throw ultra light baits. All of those technologies are in here and they are amazing. But again, it really comes down, I've got stuff blowing around on the deck right here. It really comes down to user experience. And having put a bunch of days onto this reel, here's what I'll tell you. It is unbelievably smooth, it casts unbelievably well, and absolutely it will throw micro, lightweight baits. Daiwa was not messing around. They already knew how to do this. They already had the technology in a bunch of reels outside the US market. So when they came to the US market, they were not playing around. Again, I still need to put the time into the lower price point option, but I had to start with one, and I went with the high-end one for myself just because I wanted to know. The biggest thing I will say about this reel that you need to understand is there is starting to be, well, there's always been a difference between how Japanese anglers in Japan fish versus most American anglers. And you can see it in BFS reels or bait finesse gear. There's 2 different styles of bait finesse. You've got that true, like gentle, just letting baits float and fly. And that's, in my mind, where this reel shines. This is not a reel that I want to treat like an American bait finesse reel. And what I mean by that is a lot of Americans, me included, we send it, right? So I snap a cast. Like, I see a fish blowing up, I've got a tiny little topwater, I want it out there. If you do that to this style of reel, it will give you some trouble. It's just not tuned for that style of fishing. It's not that you can't dial it in and get it to do it, because trust me, I did. I've been sending a popper on this thing. But where it's tuned, what it's designed for is feathering those ultralight baits. So the tiny little craw baits, flipping those baits, throwing a little popper, throwing a little topwater, throwing a karashi, and just sending them. You want to make a cast, you make your cast. You flow with that thing, and the reels are dialed so well, that bait will sail on its own. If you go to force it, you're eliminating letting the reel do its job. And you're trying to force it, and it won't like that. But if you just slow roll them and let them go, they go just as far anyway. Now, I'm still very much an American power fishing type angler, so half the time I dial and adjust and mess them until I can get them to do what I want. But this was not designed for that. So again, it is a JDM style bait finesse reel, which a lot of anglers are going to absolutely love. Just know that going in, enjoy it, take your time with it. It is high end, it is smooth, it's buttery, the drag is amazing, and it will throw anything you want to throw if you just let it do its job. Awesome job. I'm really glad to see Daiwa coming back into this market. You know, Daiwa and Shimano pretty much rule that high-end bait finesse game globally, unless you are seriously tuning reels, you know, all sorts of aftermarket parts. We've played with that stuff too, because we are bait junkies. But those two rule that market. And it's good to see Daiwa put some serious options into the US market, because we are in love with bait finesse fishing. And I think it is good for the sport. I think it's good for the angler to have both of those brands bringing serious options to the market. With that, let's switch over real quick to line, and then I've got a rod for you. Sticking with the bait finesse thing here for a couple more. From Seagar, this is the PE X8 Lure Edition. This is a very interesting line. So at the Classic, Seagar brought a handful of JDM lines over. Of those lines, I was instantly interested in this line. This is the line on this reel. It's a very colorful line. It's a mix of pink, and then every so often it's got a little bit of lime green in it. This line, the second I saw it, I went, I need to try that line for bait finesse. And of course you could, you could put it on a spinning reel too. There's no question. But for me, that had bait finesse written all over it. And the reason why is that this line is insanely thin, okay? It's an 8 carrier braid. It's crazy thin. So this is a 200 meter, 219 yard spool. And I put the vast majority of that spool on that Daiwa PX. 70 size reel took the vast majority of that spool, which is insane. So here's why I was curious about this line. Tim and I both love throwing micro braid on BFS gear. We also throw fluorocarbon, a lot of 6 and 7 pound fluorocarbon. But if I want distance, throwing jerk baits, throwing little micro top waters, all that stuff. If you want a ton of distance, you go to braid. The issue is that, one, braid can bite into itself, but the bigger issue, and the reason why we're going to braid, is that these reels as a whole have lower line capacity than spinning reels. BFS reels are shallow spooled in order to be able to do what we want them to do. Well, by going to this stuff, like this 12 pound has a diameter of 0.005 inches or 0.128 millimeters. What does that mean? It means that this 12 pound feels like my hair. Seriously. I was able to put so much of this on a bait finesse reel that my line capacity is like putting regular 12 pound fluoro on a regular reel. I have a full spool of braid. Now, this is a JDM line. It is a higher end line. You're going to pay for it. But I have been blown away. The casting distance is insane because the line is so thin. But again, because it is so thin, I'm getting a much stronger line all the way out there. Normally, I would have to use 6 or 8 pound braid to make those casts, and now I'm making it on 12, and I could easily go up 1 or 2 more sizes in that braid. I could go up to like a 16 or a 20 something just because it is so thin. I'm able to get enough of it on that spool, and that is a huge, huge advantage. To be able to put like 16 pound on a bait finesse reel and still have enough that you can send it out there kind of changes your options with bait finesse. You can put a little bit, now you can't put too much pressure, you hurt the reels, but you can put a little more pressure on those fish. You can swing on a slightly larger hook size. It really does open some doors with bait finesse. Super impressed with that line. That's what it boils down to. I'll link all of these items in the video description. If you're not familiar with how this works, you open the video description below this video. You may just scroll down and see the links. You may, depending on the platform you're watching this on, YouTube, Facebook, wherever it might be, you might have to scroll down, hit more, scroll down, hit more again to open the description. You might have to hit the 3 little dots to open the description. But I assure you, wherever you see this, there's a full description below the video with links to every single one of these products in the exact order that we talk about them, and it takes you right to those products on Tackle Warehouse so that you're not trying to take notes and remember what was what. It's easy to get to all of them. Next one, sticking with that bait finesse trend. This is my bait finesse time of year. I love picking it up about end of February, beginning of March. Bait finesse rods spend a lot more time on my deck all the way through summer. There's a lot of shallow fish, and it makes it really fun to target them. So I've been spending a lot of time with it, thus why you guys are seeing so much of it in this video. From Abu Garcia, the Zenin line, they entered the bait finesse market as well with 2 different models. Both of them are excellent. Here's the thing, most US companies are now trying to get something into the bait finesse or BFS category. The reason why is that it's growing. Bait finesse makes fishing more fun, so tons of people are doing it. They get a taste for it, they want more, it's booming. And it's going to continue to boom. So now all the companies are like jumping on the bandwagon, right? Well, when companies do that, some of that stuff will be great, some of it's absolute trash. Sometimes companies just throw something at it to get in the category so they can say they have it. And they'll sell some product. And so that's why we're checking everything, because we don't want you to waste your money. It is so easy to buy a bait finesse rod that is not bait finesse at all. And that money's just lost. So, especially when it comes to higher end gear, I mean, the Zenin line, you're in the 400s. This is high end. Tim and I had to take a look because there are a lot of Abu Garcia fans watching our content, and you deserve to know, if you want to stay in that line, if you make that reach, are you wasting money or are you good to go? So here's the deal. The Zenin bait finesse rods, you have 2 options. I really like both of them. You're talking crazy lightweight, super sensitive. You know, again, they've got their specs. They call the material Power Lux Composites 1000. I can't tell you what that is compared to another company. I can't compare those specs because that's all like proprietary stuff. Here's what I can tell you. Super sensitive, unbelievably lightweight, split grip, carbon fiber handles. And these are very interesting carbon fiber handles because they're completely smooth. A lot of carbon fibers are rough, completely smooth, and almost a touch tacky, almost. Like, I don't feel like you can pull this out of my hand. Truly, I'm pulling hard. I don't feel like you can just slip them out of my hand. Like, if they get wet, they don't get slippery, they get tacky. I really, really like those handles. I think that's fantastic. And overall experience with the rods has been excellent. I think Abu was not joking when they decided to make a move into the category. I think they saw what was happening and they wanted into the category, and they took a serious leap into the category. They didn't just drum something up and throw it in there, slap a BFS label on it. They made a serious option. If you want to try a high-end rod, you have a handful of options. There are some great options out there, and the Zenin just joined those. That is a really, really nice high-end bait finesse set of rods. All right, let's talk box, and then after that, it's all baits. We talked about these in our last video. Busby, the Quick Cube Breeze. We use Quick Cubes to store tackle. I'll just open this so you can see in them. I use tons of these things, tons of them. I'm loaded down with them. But a lot of times, I don't need these waterproof bags. You're just throwing away extra money when you're storing paddle tail swim baits in there, right? Which is what I just picked up. So I've ordered a whole bunch of these Breeze bags because they're mesh. I don't need waterproof, and they cost quite a bit less. So we reviewed these in the last video, and they sold out. I mean, just boom, gone, because everybody understood the value in them. So just a heads up, those are back in stock. You can get them again. But that brings us to another Busby product. Busby brought both of these at the same time, but the Breeze bags were so obvious, that was easy. I needed more time with these new boxes to see what I thought. And again, I have been very impressed. This is the Busby basic line of boxes. You've got 3 boxes. You've got a small box. They're thin, so you've got the smaller thin box. They call that the 15T. Then you've got, whoa, we got wind. Jeez, things are just blowing around here. My goodness. We'll get to those. We'll get to those. Then the other thin box is gonna be your 28T, which is your standard size thin box. And then there's also, in this 28 size, there's a deep box. So those are the three they offer. Here's one that I've got all set up with all my little micro jigs in it. Here's the deal. I really like these boxes. They are significantly less money than the standard Busby boxes, which is great, but it's not just that. So Busby makes high-end storage. They do. Their standard boxes, frankly, they're pricey, but they're bomb-proof. I mean, they're unbelievably well built. I have never had an issue. I've been super impressed. I love being able to pop in the compartments, change them, rearrange them, make boxes the exact way that I want them. But there are some times where you just want traditional dividers. And that's what they've done in this basic series. So it comes with a bunch of stock dividers. But here's the thing that I think is really neat. So one, price went down. That's great. Boxes are still super tough. Traditional dividers, but the dividers have, I'm gonna have to like flex it to get one out. They have these little nubs on the ends of them, and I don't think you can even see them. But in the box, there's little holes. So when I click this in, it actually clicks into place, and they don't want to come back out. I have to flex it apart to pull that divider out. So it's super solid. You can mix and match. It's now more like a standard box. So Busby has entered that more traditional category, but still with tons and tons of durability, waterproof, the works. And it's less money than their standard style boxes. So again, they call this the basic box. You've got three options. You've got a small thin, a large thin, and a large deep. And they're great. Next up, let's talk about color editions, okay? Z-Man Evergreen Jackhammer. The greatest chatterbait there is, right? Hands down, the most popular chatterbait on the market, no question. Two brand new Tackle Warehouse exclusive colors. The first one, this is just color editions. These are jackhammers, but Tackle Warehouse designed a couple of their own colors, and they are legit. This first one is Green Pumpkin Watermelon, and then it's got this sort of watermelon chartreuse-esque head on it. I really like this color. Of the two, this is the one I thought that I was less, the black and blue is the one I thought I was the most interested in. But when I got it in hand and I saw the head color, I'm into both of these. So green pumpkin blade, green pumpkin top, watermelon bottom, watermelon fading to like a lime or chartreuse head. Overall, bluegill imitating killer. You could pair this up to dozens of bluegill type colors to really hone in and get a bait to match the bluegill in your fishery. I'm very impressed with that color. Here's the other one though. This one speaks my language like no other, although both of these impress me. But I had to talk to you guys about this because if any of you have ever watched me talk about chatterbaits, swim jigs, worms, creature baits, you know that for whatever reason, I was born with this like weird dislike of black and blue. Bright black and blue. Like dark black with that bold blue just doesn't do it for me. Even though I catch fish on it, I don't like it. But I love hematoma. Hematoma is going to be a dull black mixed with like a subtle blue. You get the same overall thing. It catches giant fish and you don't have that like harsh blue looking back at you. I'm just attracted to all the hematoma type colors in the industry. When I saw this jackhammer, I had to have it. Check it out. It is a flat black blade, flat black head, and then a black and blue skirt. But it's an all black skirt with fine blue flake, and that's it. This, it's right down that hematoma line. You put any hematoma type trailer on here and you've got that perfect finessier black blue. It's not that harsh black blue. Of course, you can put a bold trailer on it and get that exact black blue that you're looking for in that dark tannic water, but you can also just go subtle with it. This, literally, of all the black blue colors on any chatterbait in any of the lines, this is my absolute favorite. I think they did a knockout job on this thing, and I wanted to bring it to your guys' attention, because when new colors come, that's not like new baits coming. There's not all this hype. There's not tons of people talking. It's just new colors, and they're easy to miss. And those two are not colors that you want to miss. With that in mind, one more for you. Another color addition. From Bait Sanity, their gill bait. They've got a gill glide. This bait is proven. I mean, we have talked about this thing over and over and over through the years. The bait is not new. What's new is this color, and I had to have it. So they have now added, they've added a handful of colors, but this is the one that just leapt out at me. This is female bluegill. So many bluegill baits are those dark type bluegills, right? Almost black or purple, really dark bluegills. That's what a lot of bait companies imitate. And Bait Sanity has several colors sort of in that spectrum, bluegill and a dark gill. But that female bluegill, that lit up bluegill, so many times when I'm in the shallow in the springtime, I'm up there pushing dirt shallow, the gills that I see are lit up. And the baits don't imitate that. The second I saw this on the website, I had to have it. It comes with several different tails, because their tails just sort of, let me click the thing here. The tails just snap in and out. It comes with a standard tail. I put on the one, well, it comes with both. Standard tail on it. I took that off and I put on the one with these two little chartreuse tips. It came with it. I think that really completes the package, because you'll see that little like flash of chartreuse as those gills are darting around the shallows. That little bit of chartreuse on that lit up bluegill, that's a legit color. If you throw bluegill glides, I mean, we already know this is an amazing bluegill glide. It's one of my top 2 favorite bluegill baits, period. But that color gives us all sorts of new springtime options. All right, next one is a hook from Gamakatsu. Gamakatsu has done something giant. They have switched their hooks from traditional black nickel to the nano alpha coating. It's a slick coating. It's not like an obnoxious bright silver coating. It's not like it's a saltwater tin or something. It's just a little bit of a gray coating as opposed to that traditional shiny black that we're all used to. That coating is a slippery coating. It takes the hooks to another level. They hook up better, easier penetration. You don't have to hit them as hard to get penetration. It's a real thing. If this was just on a shelf and you've always picked up black nickel, you would pick it up and just not even notice. Unless you put it in a box next to the other one and you saw the hooks side by side. Because it's not a substantial color difference, but it's a huge difference in performance. Another one in that line that I want to talk about with that nano alpha on it is these horizon heads. Specifically, the Horizon Head LG, okay? They make 2 versions, well, 3 versions of the Horizon Head. This is a JDM head that tons of people have been importing for fishing forward-facing sonar type baits, right? Mid-strolling, bottom-strolling, jig and minnow, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people have been importing this head for that technique, and now Gamakatsu has brought it over to the US. It's a very, very interesting head. It's got a handful of features. So 1, nano alpha hook, but 2, see this bigger hook gap. It's like a wide gap type hook. That's the LG. The standard is a round bend. The LG has that wide gap. This has an excellent hookup ratio. Put it in like a spunk shad or one of your other favorite forward-facing type baits. Of course, you don't need forward-facing to do this stuff. The jig and minnow thing that pros are now calling it, mid-strolling, bottom-strolling, firing those baits out, shaking that rod while you reel. You don't need live for all that stuff. You can just go down the bank doing it and it works like a dream. But regardless of how you're implementing it, this has been a very impressive head for this style of fishing. That larger gap allows you to stick big ones and hold on to them. Because this is a very finesse-y technique overall. And when finesse techniques meet giant fish, bad things can happen. This is a really good hook for keeping them pegged. Of course, it's a 90 degree, right? That's how you're getting your action out of it. A lot of that weight is sitting up high. And then one thing that's interesting, it uses a double cone keeper to hold those plastics, but the whole surface facing up is smooth. And I love that. Tim and I, when we designed our tactical underspins, both the micro, the small one, and the standard, we smoothed out the top. That is so overlooked in this industry. If the top is smooth, your baits last so much longer, because every time you stick your fish, you get that roof of the mouth and that upper lip is just in there grinding. If there's a barb in there, it grinds right on that barb and it cuts your soft plastic and destroys it. When this surface is smooth, it will last way, way longer. This makes a significant difference in how long your plastics last. And I love, I mean, a cone is a great option. Double cone, even better. I love that they kept that on the rest of the head. That was great. So super impressed with that Nano Alpha on a bunch of the products. I'll link the Superline wide gap because that's one of my favorite hooks of all time. And then I'll also link you that Horizon Head LG. All right. 3 more for you. Now we're getting into actual baits. From Yamamoto, they launched a bait called the Sensei Worm. This is a great time of year for it. And I grabbed 2 of my favorite colors. We've got red bug, we've got June bug. Yamamoto is known for making amazing plastics. This is an almost neutrally buoyant worm, so you can wacky rig it by all means. It'll fish really well that way. But it's got a thin body that's tapering down and then a little bit of a bulbous tail. What does that look like to you? To me, that looks like a shaky head worm. This is a true finesse type shaky head worm. Super soft, very neutral in the water, so you're getting good, as you're working it, you're getting good flow out of that tail. Slightly smaller size. It's a, is it 6 or 6.5? 6.5. So slightly smaller than most of my shaky head worms, which I really like. Because a lot of times when I go out on the water this time of year, I'll have a full size, like a T-Mac on a large shaky head, and then I'll put another worm, 6.5 inch worm, on a smaller, like a Missile Baits Warlock type head, a little bit smaller hook, because I can go heavier line, bigger hook, and I can go lighter line, smaller hook, and just see what the fish are willing to do on a given day. But this Sensei worm is really great. I like the movement. I like Yamamoto colors. I mean, that's a given. Look at their June bug. Their June bug is spot on. They've done a great job, like we would expect. It looks perfect. You can get colors like baby bass. Wow, that wind is screaming all of a sudden. You can get those standard Yamamoto colors that you're not going to see in other brands. I think they did a great job on this worm. There's been a handful of launches from Yamamoto over the last couple of years that are really impressive. They're doing a great job. I love to see the innovation. I love seeing the new products. Very impressed by those. Next one from Z-Man, we've got the Fatty Z. This is I think this is a Tackle Warehouse exclusive bait, if I'm not mistaken. But Z-Man Elastec, stretchy material. Primary application in my mind is Ned rigging. I mean, this is a Ned rig bait to me, but you could also put this on the back of like a micro jig. You could do a lot of other things with it. You could drop shot it, frankly, but I really like this bait. I think they've done a cool job. So Z-Man has come out with a larger profile. It's like the TRD, it's little, right? That little Finesse TRD, little guy, no movement at all, right? It's just a There it is sitting on the bottom. This is the opposite. So we've got a fat body, which will allow us to put a larger hook if we want to. Then it narrows, and then you've got a bulbous tail. They also went flat on one side, which I really like, because that does open the door. I mean, you can legitimately drop shot this bait as well. That flat side will just rides really well on the water when you're working. But for me, main application is a Ned rig. I'm super stoked to see Z-Man put out a bait with that bulbous tail where you get that wave in the water, because Z-Man, I mean, they're the reason that that entire Ned category exploded, period. I mean, let's be honest, they are. So I like to see the category has continued to grow, and they missed this segment of the category where a lot of other worms started coming out with those bulbous tails, and you could get that movement and that flow, but you couldn't get it in Z-Man colors, and now you can. Like, this is Gobi Bryant. It's such a legit color. Green pumpkin, of course, green pumpkin orange. There's so many of those good Z-Man colors available in this bait. And then again, it's Elastec. It'll last a ton of fish. You're getting great movement out of it. There's different things you can do with it. I'm super impressed with that bait. And I think it's only at Tackle Warehouse, but I'm not 100% on that. But again, we'll link it in the description for you, and I'll give you probably my top 2 or 3 favorite colors in that bait. But all in all, that Z-Man Fatty Z is legit. Last but not least, from Great Lakes Finesse, we've got their new Juicy Helgramite. I am such a sucker for Helgramite shape baits. I grew up as a kid trout fishing, and I would go out in the creek, flip rocks, find Helgramites for bait. I mean, I grew up doing that. I think that's where it comes from, but I'm such a sucker for those Helgramite profiles. I really like this bait. I love, one, how small it is. We've reviewed multiple Helgramite type baits because every time they come to market, we go get them. I'm attracted to that shape because I've done so well through my whole life with anything that is that profile. That is just fish, eat them. I don't care if it's a trout, a giant bass, or 50 other species. Everything mows these guys down. But I like that this is only a 2.5 inch. I have been fishing it on a Ned head. Do I have one laying around? No, of course not. I've been fishing it on a Ned head. That's the standard way I've been fishing it, but there's lots of other things you could do with it. This bait would also shine super well like Bait Finesse on the Micro Texas rig, but it's a super cool profile. It is proven. I mean, clear water, I'm thinking smallmouth, spotted bass, you would crush. You would crush on the Great Lakes. You'd crush river fishing. I mean, anywhere where they're picking bugs off and it's all about profile, this thing is legit. And it comes in a bunch of really cool colors. So again, that's Great Lakes Finesse. That's a little 2.4 Helgramite. Much smaller than a lot of the options on the market. I've even thrown this thing weightless recently, just adapting to my circumstances. Let me get it back in here. I really like that one. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. Guys, again, in the video description, I'll link all these different products for you. Favorite colors, favorite reel speed, favorite size in the boxes, all those things, just to make it easier for you. Tim and I love tackle. We are tackle fanatics, tackle junkies, whatever you want to call it. This is a great excuse for us to buy everything under the sun and then put it through the paces, because we get to find those gems. We get to scratch that itch, buy tons of tackle, spend tons of time playing with all of it. But then it's a huge benefit to you guys, we know, because we're able to come back and report the standouts, the winners, the ones that make a real difference in your fishing, so that you guys don't have to waste all that money buying all the different things to find out what those gems are. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.